in that case, I gotta get out.
Okay, Brent?
How are you?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Oldham County Fiscal Court. I'm Judge Executive David Vogel, and happy to have you here today on the 12th day of September for this special called meeting. And if you're able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Those who have cell phones today, please join me and turn it to off or vibrate. Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Magistrate Likens.
Not guilty.
Magistrate Tice.
Here.
Magistrate Leslie.
Here.
Magistrate Greenwell.
Here.
Magistrate Hounds.
Here.
Magistrate Eldridge.
Here.
Magistrate Dye.
Here.
Magistrate Logsdon.
Here.
Judge Vogel.
Here. Having all members of the fiscal court present, this meeting is now in session. Is there a motion to accept this agenda?
So moved. Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. This is a special meeting, so there are no changes to the agenda allowed. Right, I'd like to ask our clerk, Sheila Fair, to please read the minutes from our last meeting.
August 15th, 2017. The Oldham County Fiscal Court convened at a regular meeting at 2 p.m. with Judge Executive David Vogel, County Attorney John Carter, and the following magistrates in attendance: Brent Likens, Wayne Tice, Bob Leslie, Steve Greenwell, Chris Hounds, Kevin Eldridge, Bob Dye, and Michael Logsdon. Motion made by Magistrate Leslie and seconded by Magistrate Logsdon to approve the agenda, adding executive session pursuant to KRS 61.810B, potential real estate acquisition, after second public comment. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Leslie and seconded by Magistrate Greenwell to approve the meeting minutes of August 1st. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Eldridge and seconded by Magistrate Hounds to move coroner appointment under promotional appointments. Motion carried unanimously. Promotional appointments, oath to office. Motion made by Magistrate Greenwell and seconded by Magistrate Hounds to approve the promotional appointment of Major Neil Johnson at $70,802.08 effective August 16th. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Leslie and seconded by Magistrate Hounds to approve the promotional appointment of Major Tracy Witt at $70,802.08 effective August 16th. Motion carried unanimously. Judge Vogel administered the oath of office to Majors Johnson and Witt. Coroner's Office. Judge Vogel announced the retirement of Oldham County Coroner Brett Donner effective August 31st and appointed David Pendleton as acting coroner, fulfilling the unexpired term September 1st, 2017 through December 31st, 2018. Judge Vogel administered the oath of office to Mr. Pendleton. Public comment. County Clerk Julie Barr presented a $1,938.41 check for the balance of 2016 excess fees, making the total excess fees for 2016 $430,398.40. Alan Williams, 1803 Oldham Place, spoke to the court regarding concerns relating to runoff from the O'Reillys and commended the county engineering staff for their efforts in addressing his concerns. Judge Vogel provided an update to the Extension District's proposed tax of 1.5 cents per $100 assessed property value and the process to enact it. He announced Justin Thomas from Goshen won the National PGA Tournament and stated the county is proud of his accomplishment. Oldham County Library Budget Presentation. Oldham County Library Director Sandra Causey and Board Member David Hutchinson presented information relating to its budget for fiscal year 17-18 and ad valorem tax rate and responded to questions from the court. Bid openings. The following sealed bids, statements of qualifications, and proposals for specified projects were opened and read aloud for the record. Self-dumping hoppers for recycling center. Beacon Industries, $20,649.36. LK Goodwin Company, $22,082.57. Material Handling Solutions, $16,033. Municipal Equipment, $21,100. Commerce Parkway Existing Condition Survey. BTM Engineering, $29,172. Garber Chilton Engineers, $33,760. Palmer Engineering, $22,100. QK4, $34,910. Summit Engineering, $40,540. Statement of qualifications for preliminary study for new interchanges on I-71, HMB Professional Engineers and Palmer Engineering. Detention Center Inmate Clothing Supplies. The complete bid package, 3 pages, is attached to the minutes. For Section 1, personal care items, Section 2, inmate clothing, Section 3, bedding and laundry, Section 4, cleaning supplies, and Section 5, security. Detention Center Inmate Commissary, Carousel, CBM Managed Services, Keefe Commissary Network, Kelwell Food Management, and Tiger Correctional Services. For inmate food services, CBM Managed Services, Consolidated Correctional Food Service, Kelwell Food Management, Summit Food Service, and Tiger Correctional Services. Detention Center for the Inmate Medical Services, Quality Correctional Health Care, and Southern Health Partners. Inmate Telephone System, Combined Public Communications, IC Solutions, NCIC Inmate Communications, Securus Technologies, and Telmate. County Administration, Payables. Motion made by Magistrate Logsdon and seconded by Magistrate Hounds to approve the payables. Motion carried 8-1. Magistrate Greenwell voted no. Community Business, County Tax Rate. Motion made by Magistrate Tice and seconded by Magistrate Likens to authorize the Judge Executive to sign Resolution Number 0408-1517, adopting the compensating tax rate for 2017 of 8.9 cents per $100 assessed property value. Motion carried unanimously. Contract agreements and resolutions. Resolution for the Solid Waste Management Plan update. Motion made by Magistrate Eldridge and seconded by Magistrate Dye to authorize the Judge Executive to sign Resolution Number 0108-1517 relating to adoption of the proposed Solid Waste Management Plan. Motion carried unanimously. Resolution and application for Kentucky Flood Mitigation Assistance Program. Motion made by Magistrate Likens and seconded by Magistrate Eldridge to authorize the Judge Executive to sign Resolution Number 0208-1517 relating to Kentucky Emergency Management Flood Mitigation Assistance Program. Motion carried 8-0. Magistrate Dye was absent at time of vote. Resolution and Legal Services Agreement for Opioid Litigation. Motion made by Magistrate Dye and seconded by Magistrate Tice to authorize the Judge Executive to sign Resolution Number 0308-1517 and Legal Services Agreement relating to opioid litigation on behalf of Oldham County Fiscal Court. Discussion followed. Magistrate Dye withdrew the motion. Magistrate Tice concurred the motion withdrawal. Motion made by Magistrate Eldridge and seconded by Magistrate Logsdon to table this item to allow the county attorney and fiscal court further review. Motion carried 8-1. Magistrate Leslie voted no. Personnel actions. Engineer's Office. Motion made by Magistrate Leslie and seconded by Magistrate Logsdon to hire Derek Shade as engineer in training at $23.08 an hour, effective September 5th. Motion carried unanimously. Dispatch. Motion made by Magistrate Hounds and seconded by Magistrate Logsdon to accept the retirements, resignations of Libby Coover and Tim Keel, effective August 31st. Motion carried unanimously. Police. Motion made by Magistrate Leslie and seconded by Magistrate Tice to accept the resignation of Justin Moldero, effective September 2nd. Motion carried unanimously. Second public comment, none. Executive session. Motion made by Magistrate Likens and seconded by Magistrate Eldridge to go into closed session pursuant to KRS 61.810B, real estate. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Eldridge and seconded by Magistrate Leslie to come out of closed session. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Eldridge and seconded by Magistrate Leslie to allow the Judge Executive to make an offer on an undisclosed piece of property. Motion carried unanimously. Announcements. Motion made by Magistrate Eldridge and seconded by Magistrate Dye to move the regular scheduled meeting of September 5th to September 12th at 2 p.m. Motion carried unanimously. Magistrate Likens stated Building Committee conducting tours of all county buildings to create a master maintenance plan for buildings. Magistrate Tice announced a new traffic light is going up in Buckner at Thornton's and Darby Point, and drivers need to be extra attentive as it's implemented. Magistrate Leslie announced the Parks Department is hosting a lot of new activities and music events at Westport Park. Magistrate Greenwell stated attendance at Oldham County Fair was impressive this year. He requested Ballard Glen be paved before winter. He stated Oldham County Schools starts tomorrow and for drivers to allow extra time and be watchful of students. Magistrate Hounds commented on the ribbon cutting at the new Jefferson Technical College in Carrollton. He thanked Tim Keel for his many years of service, wished him a happy retirement. Magistrate Eldridge congratulated David Pendleton On the coroner position, he congratulated Majors Witt and Johnson on their promotions. He encouraged those with concerns regarding CERS retirement to contact their representatives and asked them to work towards a resolution to the CERS problems. Magistrate Dye announced road work around Dairy Queen and Crestwood is expected to be completed by mid-November. Judge Vogel congratulated the Fair Board for another successful year. The September 5th fiscal court meeting is canceled, so the next fiscal court meeting will be Tuesday, September 12th at 2 p.m. Motion made by Magistrate Eldridge and seconded by Magistrate Dye to adjourn the meeting. Motion carried unanimously, and the meeting adjourned at 4:52.
You've heard the reading of our minutes from August 15th. Is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any corrections? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved. Time now for public comment, the time during our meeting when anyone who would like to address the fiscal court is able to do so. We allow 4 minutes to speak, and the first person here is our employee, Becky Zocklin.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, gentlemen. I'm here today for the purpose of reminding our community of our annual shredding event, which will take place Saturday morning from 9 to 12 at the fairgrounds. And we have signs are up, and there's a nice article in the Oldham Era this past week. And I'm hopeful that people will take advantage of this opportunity to lighten their collection of items that need to be disposed of in a confidential manner or protect themselves from identity theft. This is strictly for Oldham County residents. It is provided by a private company that has a mobile shredding device and Paper Predator of Shelbyville. And last year we collected over 6 tons of paper. I'm hoping not to have quite that much this year. So.
Do you have any questions on that? I want to emphasize the word free
Yes,
for
absolutely
Oldham
free.
County residents.
Yes, at residency will be checked.
All right, thank you.
Scott Harris, Oldham County Engineer. I would like to introduce our new staff engineer that you approved the hiring of last week. He started on Tuesday. His name is Derek Shade.
Thank you, everybody. Nice to meet you all. My name's Derek Shade. Very happy to join the team down in the engineer's office. Hopefully, I can do a great job for you all. I'm looking forward to it. Just to give you a little background on myself, I'm a graduate of the United States Coast Guard Academy. Served 20 years in the Coast Guard, retired about a year ago as a commander, and have decided to retire here to Crestwood, where I live with my wife and 2 daughters. So I'm also a graduate of University of Michigan and the U.S. Naval War College, and I'm a licensed professional engineer. So that's about it. Nice to meet everybody. And
Derek, we're very happy
having me
to
aboard.
have you here. And anybody have any questions or anything? Nice to meet you. I welcome you to our staff, and hope you enjoy working here and things will work out well for all of us. And I think you have a couple of degrees in engineering, and I think
I
you're
do.
being a little more modest than you actually need to be, but we'll accept that.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Judge.
Okay, thank you. All right, does anybody else like to address fiscal court? I'll ask you to state your name and address, please.
All right, so Alan Williams, 1803 Oldham Place. I was here last month.
All right.
Now I'm here the second month. Been here 2 months now. But I want to thank you, Judge, for your response to my email and to the county engineer who explained to my wife some information about our area and our problem. And all I can say is I talked to Vic this morning about the report he sent you guys, and he explained to me in great detail and took time to do that. But I still have a problem, gentlemen. He explained the density of water, and I know mud and rudder, but when you have a whole top of a hill clear cut off, and all these years I've not had red mud in my particular property with the neighbors, it all comes from that. So there's something inadequate that's happening. And what Mr. Engineer, Steve Otis told me, that they met in compliance. I understand that now. I wish someone had explained to me a while back. I'm not an enemy here. I'm a citizen, and I brought a problem to my elected officials to help with my neighbors. And they said, as I told you last month, they said, it won't happen. I said, give you a chance. Well, I gave you a chance. It's still not happening now. Vic explains to me that everything's in appliance to your local ordinances. That's all you had to say. That's a different issue. You have weak ordinances, I think, if it can't be solved. But I go with just being a good neighbor. Why can't they dig the hole deeper? Why can't they stop this? It's all with your planning and zoning, not what Vic enforces. He just can only enforce the ordinances. I'm not against it. I'm just saying, gentlemen, I'm disappointed. You need to look at this again with planning. It's still happening to my neighborhood. And I'm sorry. I'm disappointed in you guys because it's still happening. And I'll be like most citizens here. You fail to protect me and serve me. That's the way I feel when I bring an issue to you. And it could be solved very easily, I think. I don't know because I'm not an engineer. But I just want you to know, I'll be one of those citizens that'll go away. I won't bother you again because you're within compliance. What can I do? I can't do anything else. So you won't hear from me again. I'm just sorry that it happened. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. I believe your complaint has to do with the runoff from a development into Crystal Lake. And so that's something that our engineering, department has to handle. I think I don't know exactly all the circumstances. I know you contacted me, and I think we went out and looked at it and felt like the thing was in better shape or had been improved. We did have a rather unique storm burst there at one point a few weeks ago, but nevertheless, I appreciate your frustration, and I think we're trying to handle it to satisfy you and other residents of Crystal Lake within the structure of the ordinances we have. So, thank you. Anyone else here like to address the fiscal court? All right, seeing no one, I'm going to close the public comment, and we'll go on to the first item on the agenda. That's a bid opening for a debris boom for Westport Park. A debris boom is an item that stops river debris from collecting along the bank, or at least it helps deflect it away from a certain piece of property back out into the river. One bid has been received on that, and that is from Elastek of Boca Raton, Florida. We'll find the amount on here. $16,293. Next item on the agenda is some road work bidding. This would be to resurface the road at Ballard Glen subdivision. Okay. And how many bids do we have on this, do you know? 5 bids on this, okay. All Contracting of Kentucky, $164,228.36. Louisville Paving, $138,743.40. Mack Construction, $184,068.47. Riverside Paving and Contracting, $120,200. $252. Wingham Paving, $129,880.66. The next bid opening is for the resurfacing work at the Cardinal Harbor and the Shiloh Lane. The first bid, Hall Contracting, $751,029.94. It says here includes miscellaneous other items. Louisville Paving, $889,878.52. This is Mack Construction, $887,367.94. All right, Riverside Paving, $723,339. Wingham Paving, $954.32. All right. Was that, you think that was bid properly? I don't think so. You know, there's something wrong there. So look them over, all right? You feel free to come and take them. First series of bids. That's the first series there. Okay, all right. All right. Next item on the agenda is to pay the bills here. That's the payables. When they're ready, I'll accept a motion here.
Second.
Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Motion passes 7-2. Now we're on to the Kentucky 911 Service Agreement grant for dispatch. Kevin Nuss, is he here? Okay, let's see, what do we have here? Somebody want to find Kevin? Let's move on to the environmental covenant here. Jim Urban, you want to come forward on that? We'll skip B for the moment.
Good afternoon, Judge, Magistrates, Sheila. What you're being asked to consider is allowing the judge to sign this environmental covenant on a piece of property in Buckner. Just a quick history of this property. The county actually acquired this from the owners in 2009 under a previous administration. And one of the unfortunate things about this property, and it's at the corner of Kentucky 146 and 393. It's a vacant piece of property, and it's next to the railroad track. It's between 146 and the railroad track, and that would be 393 south. So it's not near the traffic signal. It's the 393 that goes across the railroad track. Years ago, this property was used by CSX as a laydown area for railroad ties when they were replacing them along the rail line, and they sat there for quite some time. And John Black was judge executive at the time, and I was on board, and we actually had to take action against CSX. We tested the ground, and it had certain contaminants in it, and that got us to, or get CSX to remove them. It actually had shallow soil impact. There was polynuclear aromatic hydrocarbons. That's what was left in the dirt. And so this environmental covenant, even though we own the property, is really just a restriction on the use of the property. There's no contamination there, it's not traveling, it's been mitigated as best it can. But you'll see that on the second page, there are certain use restrictions: no residential use of any kind, no private schools, daycares, or childcare, no hiking, swimming, fishing, pleasure diving, or nature study. Basically, it's an unusable piece of property anyway, and actually it's going to be part of the realignment of 393 as it goes under the railroad track, and the 146 will push away from this piece of property, and so it's really not going to be used for any of those uses. It couldn't be today because it's too small, and it really can't be in the future because it'll be in the midst of the roadway. So the environmental covenant is really a kind of a protection, if you will, for uses on the property. It kind of clears up with the Department of Environmental Management the issue of these contaminants, and just says that we won't have any ground disturbing activities or use it for any manner that would affect the human health and environment in any way. So again, if you're all okay with it, if you have any questions, I'm not an expert in this particular document, but we've had this in front of fiscal court several months ago, and it kind of got shuffled on a few desks, and we're being asked to at least consider it again.
Right, is there a motion to allow me to sign this environmental agreement document?
So moved. Second.
Is there any discussion on it? Magistrate Greenwell?
Thank you. Jim, who is bringing this forward that we need? Who's bringing this forward that we need to do this?
Well, it is the, and I'm going to get the right name, it's the Division of Waste Management, Department of Environmental Protection in Frankfurt. And again, this is kind of just a lingering document, as I can understand it. They have a consulting engineer that's actually asking us to consider this on their behalf. And it just, again, really, as the property owner, puts land use restrictions on this particular piece of property.
Okay.
Judge, as CSX moves their track, as they put it in the underpass at a later date, will they need to come over onto this property?
No,
Or are they
it'll-
going in the other direction?
It'll go on the south
They're
side.
going
It'll go on
south.
the opposite side, yeah. And I did check with the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet to make sure that signing this document didn't have any impact on the road project, and they don't plan on disturbing it. Again, it's shallow soil stuff. It's not anything that's really deep. You'll see in this document, they're saying that we can't affect any structures that they might have been put in place to contain this. There were no structures. Again, this was all soil contamination, and it's been remediated. It's really just kind of a gravel, rough grass area. We cut the grass on it.
Well, this was the area more or less behind, adjacent to and behind the old Thornton gas station that sat there years ago.
Right.
And when they knocked that station down, I did go to Mrs. Moorhead, Helen Moorhead, who represented the Clore Moorhead Trust, and asked her, if they'd give that property to us, and she agreed to do that. They made a donation. So subsequently, we were told that these railroad ties had been stacked out in there, and that stuff had, seeped into the ground that they want to keep an eye on. I don't think it's anything, too major, but they have come and done several tests over the years. I think Dwayne Murner signed this in 2009.
He did.
And I really don't know why we're being asked to re-up it or something, but they've gone out there and drilled 2 or 3 holes maybe a month or 6 weeks ago, and they just don't want you to build anything on that property without talking to them about it. But the fact that the 146 is actually, a little bit ahead of that, is eventually going to start dropping down to about an 18-foot depth. But, it's going to wind up being a,
Well, not there, Judge.
well,
146 is actually moving away from this particular piece of property. It's moving towards the north first. and-
I know that, but it's only going to, I'm talking about the highway itself is going to go below the
Below
current
this
grade and meet 393 down there. This area will just be, scenic grass, for the duration.
And this property, as Judge mentioned, the old Thorntons, everybody that's been here a long time remembers the blue building that was there. It was between that and what was Protec at the time, before Protec moved. That's what this parcel was. So.
Excuse me.
And CSX did it without permission. They just went and put these railroad ties there, and they sat there for months on end. And again, we had no other mechanism to get them to remove them. We were trying and trying and trying. They subcontract with a company to remove the railroad ties. That wasn't happening, so we tested the soil. And this stuff doesn't travel. I mean, it doesn't leach into the ground and go downstream or anything. It just sits there. And they did remediate after they removed the railroad ties.
Judge,
Yes, sir.
the '09 document looked like to me that Judge Murner signed was just the deed.
It was,
Okay, so
That
this
is-
is the
okay.
first time we've been asked to sign
Okay.
this, I believe.
Okay,
Yeah.
you're right.
yeah.
Okay, is there any more discussion on this? I don't think, we certainly don't have a plan for the property. Not
really. I mean, we can-
It's just open space.
Yeah, if after the road's done, we can plant grass on it, we can mow it, it doesn't prohibit us from, using it for, to keep it clean and whatnot. It just, specific land uses, I think, is the real restriction, so that we don't have children playing on there, or nature study and hiking and all that kind of stuff. So,
Let's vote.
All right, hearing no further discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank you.
thank you, Judge.
All right, now let's go back to the 911 Services Grant Award.
Afternoon. Apologize for that. I was on the phone with dispatch. You have before you a contract from the Kentucky 911 Services Board, Homeland Security. The court had previously authorized Judge Vogel to sign an application for a grant for a new logging recorder. This is a piece of equipment we need to integrate our 800 megahertz radio system project into MetroSafe. I'm glad to say that we were awarded that amount in whole. The amount of the award is $15,900.88. The full amount of the grant is $21,300.18. $5,000 of that is a local match that's coming out of our, the dispatch is paying out of the CAD fund for a local part of that match. So if you would allow the judge to sign the contract with the Kentucky 911 Services Board, I would very much appreciate it.
Second. Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, here we've got the, Melissa, do you want to say anything about this? Okay, you can. I mean, we've just got the annual request from, somebody in Frankfurt here to sign to sign an agreement to let the state HVAC inspector lease space downstairs for $900 and some, I think it is, a year, isn't it? Not much. And he doesn't get much.
768.
Pardon?
768.
768, is that it? Okay. Okay. Yeah. I think
This is probably the third or fourth renewal of this particular contract. The state HVAC inspector has a cubicle in our office and basically just uses it kind of as a home base for inspections. My understanding is that eventually they're going to move him to an office building on Hurstbourne Parkway. And your question, Magistrate Logston, regarding what we're thinking about doing, the answer is no. I mean, the state HVAC inspector has, I think, 5 counties that he operates in. I know Spencer and part of Jefferson County. So even if we took over HVAC inspections, he would still need an office. And as long as it works out for us, he's welcome to rent it there. We have a little, it's just really one little cubicle. That's why it's only $900 a year, because it's based on square footage, so. Thanks.
Any further discussion? Do we have a motion on that?
This doesn't affect the remodeling that we're doing down there at all? Got it. I'll make the motion.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Nugent Sand Company is asking to renew a lease that they have with us. They had this lease for a long time. I think I haven't been able to find out exactly when it began, but it's gone on for years. They're asking that this be extended until December 31st of 2028. And this is $3,000 a year, but if they get more than, at 3 cents a ton, if they get more than 3 cents of, for the sand and 4 cents for the gravel, they'll actually, if it exceeds $3,000 a year, they will, pay the same rate for anything beyond that. I had Stan take a look at this, and he thought, I said, man, this, not much for quite a while, but apparently the history, the financial history of sand is cheaper today than it was in the past, and going backward, and he advised me he thought this was about as good as we could do.
Judge, I'll make the motion to be allowed to sign the lease agreement with Nugent Sand Company.
Second,
Second.
any discussion on this? Manager Greenwell?
Thank you, Judge. Am I remembering somebody saying that they just keep this option available and that they haven't really taken any sand out of the river in years?
I don't know that for a fact, but I've heard, something like that it's a fallback position, but
Just in case? Okay.
apparently they want, they've got a longer-term plan for something here, but, they didn't disclose to us what it is.
Well,
Magistrate Logsdon?
that brings me to my question. We're tying this up till what, 2028?
28?
So shouldn't we do it in 5-year increments so that if something happens where we can better our position, that it's renewable every 5 years or something instead of tying it up for so long?
Well, that would seem logical. I mean, but Stan had the long-term history of sand, and unless something dramatically changed, it's actually slipped in value over the years somehow.
Well, no, I just hate tying something up for so many years, but I mean, I understand what you're saying, so.
There's not much in it for us one way or another. Magistrate Dye?
I would guess that they want the sand, as the need for concrete moves further north. They want their sand closer to the cement concrete plants just for to save on freight, instead of hauling out of downtown Louisville. Be my guess.
I don't know. Did Magistrate Hounds?
Question, we signed this back in 2014, right?
Yes, so, yeah.
And was that for, what, 4 years? I mean, I guess I'm kind of on the same page as Magistrate Logsdon about the time frame.
We signed this in December of 2014, and apparently it was,
Because it says,
Only been a 3-year lease.
on page 2, it says, remainder period before the 1st of January 2016, 17, 18, and 19. There it looks like it's, oh, that's when the payment is going to be, not the renewal, okay. Okay.
Well, no, I'm just wondering why it's dragging out for so long.
I'd rather see it be a 5-year with a, renewal, and then give us the opportunity in 5 years if something's changed. If nothing's changed, keep going. But 10 years just seems like an awful long period of time. None of us are in the sand business, so we don't know. We don't know if.
I think, I can't attest to it accurately, but I think we've had an agreement with this company for
Yeah, it sounds
a
like.
long time.
Judge,
Yes, sir.
I can remember signing or voting to let the judge, and this is during Judge Kinzer's administration, that we did one, and I don't know if we had done another one before 14 or not, but to turn around and do it after 3 short years, or 3 years, and then ask to do it for the next 11, I'm kind of wondering about this myself.
Well, why don't we table it, and we'll get a little bit more information.
Okay.
I'll table a motion.
He moved to table, I'll second.
Can we still, I have no problem with doing this with Nugent Sand. It's just, I'm just wondering why we were just doing it every 4 years, now we're doing it to 2028. That just seems like a long time that they're trying to tie something up for some reason.
Okay.
And there might not be a reason at all. It just might be what they're trying to do.
We'll find out and bring it back next week. Okay. I think we had a motion to table. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Okay.
It says.
Next item here has to do with the legal services agreement for the opioid epidemic. That was tabled last time. Is there a motion to take it off the table? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
I think the motion carries 5-3. All right. Who opposed? Okay. 6-3, I guess. All right, here's what we know about this. Let's get it out here, I'll vote it up or down. The last discussion that was had here, this does not involve Kroger or CVS or any facility in this county. 37 counties in Kentucky have either signed on or committed to sign on to this legislation. Jefferson County is involved in it, City of Cincinnati. I see no reason why, I personally see no reason why we would not want to. I'm not worried about what any lawyers make if they happen to win this. This lawsuit is not against retailers, but distributors. A distributor is not, Kroger is not a distributor, they're a retailer. CVS is a retailer. There are basically 3 or 4 major organizations around the country that control all the flow of these opioids. And according to the information that's been presented to us in other counties that joined this lawsuit, and which is, these distributors are not managing the flow of this product in a responsible way. That there's a lot of mismanagement, the mismanagement that is leading to a lot of people being exposed to this product, and lots of negativity in regard to the individual's health, family circumstances, law enforcement, you name it. The uncontrolled distribution of opioids is a national epidemic as identified by the president. So we can choose to stay out of this and sit on the sidelines, that's fine. I wouldn't say that if there's a settlement or any kind of lawsuit or anything that happens that results in a victory for the plaintiffs, then if we've joined it, we've helped create something positive. If we want to sit back and say that it's not our problem or let other people do it, I don't really think that's the way to do it. And like I say, I don't think we're in it for what we necessarily can get out of it, although if there is a settlement to be made and we have expenses in our county, we're certainly entitled to present those and recover them. This could take years and years to settle. Not necessarily next week. We could have, a serious epidemic here in the future. We've been lucky so far. So that, my opinion is that we have nothing to lose and something positive to assert in regard to stopping the flow of unregulated opioids, or let's say, not necessarily unregulated, but uncontrolled distribution of this drug. So, anybody else have anything they'd like to add?
Have we made a motion to accept this, or? Yeah. This is, go ahead to vote for this. If we've taken it off the table, we haven't made a motion to accept it, correct?
Mr. Carter, do we need a new motion to accept this?
Yes.
All right. I'll make the motion that we join the suit. Any further discussion? Mr. Leslie?
Well, are we suing in federal or state court?
Well, we're not suing at all. It is the.
Well, if we're part of this, we are suing.
I believe it, I can't answer that question. Where they're gonna bring this, I don't know.
Okay, well, I have several issues on this. Number one, we were told that they were going to go after certain pharmacies in this county for unspecified damages, of which I've asked and none have been presented to anybody that I'm aware of on fiscal court. And now I know that Jefferson or Louisville Metro, Cincinnati have already agreed to go in federal court. So what we were told and that now what we're asked to vote on, we have no idea what we're voting on. So I disagree with that. And it's similar to the issue of where Equifax and 143 million people's private information was taken from them, and Equifax saying, well, if we give you 2 years of protection for identity theft, and then at that point, then you have no recovery. There's nothing that states that whoever stole the 143 40 million people's records, you have no recourse. So on the Leland Conway show at WHAS was interviewing an attorney, and this particular attorney stated that if you wish to go after Equifax, the best way to approach this is for you to hire an attorney to specifically go after them for cause rather than being involved in a class action suit. I've met a lot of attorneys who have been involved in class action suits, and I have extraordinarily low opinion of them. But to be involved in something of this nature when we have no idea about what the opioid was, whether it was distribution, whether it was an illegal opioid, or whatever reason, we're not stating in here. This contract is also different than the one that was given to us previously. We stated that if fiscal court allows this, then the judge executive has the right to amend the contract without fiscal court. So I disagree with it on that matter. But everybody needs to vote on this as they feel best. But I think to just vote on it to make a statement, I don't think anybody at the DIAS is not in favor of approaching this as an epidemic, which I think it is. So that's what I have to say. And I will vote no.
Anybody else like to make a comment? All right, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Magistrate Leslie?
No.
Magistrate Tice?
Yes?
Magistrate Hounds?
Yes.
Magistrate Dye?
Yes.
Magistrate Logsdon?
No.
Magistrate Likens?
No.
Magistrate Greenwell?
No.
Magistrate Eldridge?
Yes.
And Judge Vogel?
Yes. Motion passes 5-4. All right, thank you. The next item on our agenda here today has to do with bid award for recycling self-dumping hoppers.
Thank you, Judge.
I'll get it out right, Becky?
Yes. The bids that we received, we are rejecting all of the bids that we received because we find that they're not in They're not conducive to our budget, nor are they conducive to the operation of the recycling center. The lowest bid that is shown is for a product that is not consistent with what we already have and what we were looking for. And we've opted to go with a quote that was given to us that is below the bid threshold, and the total amount, including shipping, excuse me, will be $18,875. And that bid is from, or that quote is from Uline.
From who?
Uline. It's not on the bid tab. They submitted a quote outside of the advertised bids.
All right, so, I guess we could do that. Do we have a problem here? Magistrate Tice?
I'm looking at something a little confused. I see something that's got Uline on it, but it's got $16,300.
That does not, that's for the product itself, not including the shipping. If you look at the total down below,
Just a second.
at the very bottom where it says total,
Mine only has the 16.3.
there's subtotal 16.3, and then shipping and handling is 25.75.
I don't have that in my literature, so.
Here.
Becky, is this
Oh,
the
it's
same
in the- it's
size
in the-
as the other one that we
Yes,
bid?
these are exactly the
Illustration here.
same as the bins that we have.
Yep, that's right, it's right in the copy there. See it?
Oh, 25.75. I see that now.
Yeah.
Now, and
Steve?
let's see. Did you just ask a question? And I
I
was
just
trying
asked
to.
if they were the same size as, or that everybody else bid last week. Same
The
product.
Uline hoppers are the same as the ones we purchased last year, and that we've been using consistently and have been proven to be very useful to the operation of the recycling center. We have 2 of them now, and so we'll be purchasing 20 more.
Magistrate Logson?
I mean, I guess I'm a little confused on this. Shouldn't we put it back out to bid and see if any of these other companies can match the other one again? I mean, it's not apples to apples, is it? It'd be like receiving bids and then say, we don't like those, so let's just get another one without everybody else being the bid, wouldn't it? I mean, I don't know, I'm just asking, for clarification.
You might have a point if you were going,
Yeah.
if we were taking something higher than what was bid, but taking something lower.
I mean, this is under the bid threshold.
But the bids were for the product that you want,
That's correct. That's
right?
correct.
And the Uline bid, or Uline quote is for the same product.
It's for exactly the same product, yeah.
I think the lowest quote, or the lowest bid that we opened, that was not the same product.
No, it was not exactly the same product.
I wanna
It was for a similar product, but it wasn't for the exact product that we needed.
Why didn't Yulin bid the first time?
Who knows?
Uline is a catalog company. I don't think
They
they
didn't
go
say
out
that
and
in
look. I use Uline. They're just a catalog company. You look for them, they don't look for you.
Okay, Magistrate Logson, you confused? In other words, this was the same product, it was cheaper than everybody's bid, so. Well, we don't have to take anybody's bid. If it doesn't come out satisfactory,
Yeah.
why take it?
Judge, I think if we bid this back out, the other people are gonna see these other 3 bids that are 20, 21, and 22, and probably come back in higher than the 18,875, so.
Yeah, and I think it's a matter of Uline just not sending in their, what they thought was a bid in the proper manner.
Or when they find out that we picked somebody else above them, and they're gonna say, well, why didn't we get a chance to go back and rebid? I don't know. I believe in, Melissa, I believe what you say is true, so that's fine. I've got some questions, so.
Well, we got a better deal than anybody's bid.
Yeah.
So, we don't, and we're not obligated to take any bid, so why redo it again when we came up with a better price for the same product from somewhere else?
Why did we bid it out to begin with?
Well, we didn't know what they were gonna bid.
Right.
And it was very close to $20,000.
Right.
Was our estimate. So when it's close, then we bid it out.
Judge, I'm gonna make the motion, we accept the quote from Uline for $18,875 for this dumpster for the environmental department.
Second.
Any further discussion on that? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank you. All right, Jail Committee Detention Center bid awards, that Magistrate Dye?
Got a little allergy problem today. We met today, the jail committee, with the first thing up was the health care services for the new detention center. The committee recommends that we accept Southern Health Partners as who will award this to, and for a price of $763, $716, and no pennies. That's $763,716. And that was by unanimous vote of the jail committee. So I'd make a motion that we,
All right, so you making a motion, is there a second? Moving and second that Southern Health Partners be awarded the contract for health services at the detention center.
all right, the second category was,
Wait, we want to vote on that?
oh, I guess we should, shouldn't we?
Any
You look at me like he's waiting for me to do it again.
Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Okay.
All right, the second category is the food service. We again met at the same meeting, and then we decided to award this, make a recommendation to award this to Kelwell Food Management. And they don't have an actual number on this. I don't think you want to get into the meal price and all that. I'll just say, I'd like to make a motion that we accept their as was proposed in their RFP.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded that we employ Kelwell Food Services to provide the food program at the detention center. Any discussion on that? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
And the third item today is for the commissary services. Again, Kelwell Food Management was the best of the ones that we looked at, and we recommend, the committee recommends that we accept their proposal and their RFP for that in the new detention center. That's my motion.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, Kelwell Food Services be employed for the commissary management and supplies. All right. Any discussion on that? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. All right, then what do we have left to decide in the future?
The telephone services and supplies. We should have that ready for next court.
Anticipate that for next week, all right? Thank you. Road Committee, erosion control bond release for the Mount Tabor cell phone tower. Magistrate Greenwell?
Thank you, Judge. Scott Harris, engineer, has recommended release of the bond for the cell phone tower at Mount Tabor. And I'm willing to second that if Magistrate Howns would make that motion. I'll second it.
All right, moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on it? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Next item is the Utilities Committee Stormwater Management Facilities Maintenance Agreement. Magistrate Eldridge.
Thank you, Judge. Is it all right if I take this? It says in the agenda you were doing it. It's okay to
Pardon me?
say here that you were going to present that. Do you want me to do it instead?
No, I've got you on mine here.
Okay, very good. It's called passing the buck. Thank you,
No,
Judge.
actually I do. I'll let you see it. It says Kevin Eldridge right there.
The Utilities Committee met this morning and looked over the stormwater facilities maintenance agreement. This is something that the DOW has been wanting and that our MS4 permit calls out for. It is not perfect, but basically what it does is assigns long-term who's going to be responsible for stormwater issues. Currently, when the developer is done, if he signs off, then there's problems. He points fingers at the builder, builder points fingers at the developer, they both point fingers at the landowner. This establishes in infinitum who's going to be responsible. It lays it out first at the builder level, or excuse me, developer level, then builder, then homeowner, or it's assigns, which could be a homeowners association. Frankly, we're all a little nervous about this. Homeowners associations in the past have not stepped up to the plate and done this. However, there are homeowners associations in the area and in the state that have done this and have done it successfully, such as Norton Commons. So it was unanimous among the Utilities Committee that we bring this forward as a recommendation to accept it at today's fiscal court. I'll make that in the form of a motion.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded that we adopt the stormwater management facilities maintenance agreement. Is there any discussion? Magistrate Dye.
Well, for those that are listening and watching today, I'm probably, when I get done here, somebody's probably going to cut me off by saying, call the question. As Magistrate Eldridge said, it's far from perfect, and that's an understatement, to say the least. You referenced Norton Commons. Norton Commons is a planned unit development. You cannot compare what Norton Commons does to what we do in this county with the HOAs. It's like comparing an apple to an orange. It does not lay out in explicit terms what exactly the ownership trail goes from the landowner, developer, builder, homeowner. The bottom line is, you had a man here earlier, Mr. Williams, was complaining about not protecting him as a taxpayer and a citizen. My estimation, this is the worst piece of legislation I've ever seen in my life. I was told I was guaranteed there's going to be some safeguards in this legislation to make sure that when the ownership of this drainage facility, and we keep referencing one of the persons, I'm not going to call anybody out, keeps saying it's the retention basins. It's not. It plainly states ditches, culverts, pipes. It's the whole drainage system within a subdivision. If you're the poor sap, it's got the drainage, you got the ditch between your house and the next one, there's no HOA, and the county says, oh, we got a problem here, they're going to come in, it says right here, very bold letters, the county can just come in and say, you got to fix this, if you don't fix it, we'll come in and fix it and send you a bill. Now, I don't have a problem with people taking care of their property, and the county, as I think, and I will say, and I think most people would agree, has not done what I would say a grade A job on post-construction inspection. If we could find developers and builders who will put a subdivision in place per the way that it's designed, and actually someone go out on the property, not drive by and look at it and see that it's done that way, and whenever time it changes hands, it should be inspected then to see what has changed upstream, what has changed downstream. It's an evolving thing. But the bottom line is, Magistrate Logston made a comment earlier today about he had some reservations. I won't say what you said, that's up to you. This is not good for the ultimate consumer, the homeowner. The homeowner's not going to know anything about this. When he goes to sell his house and the HOA's got a big bill hanging over their head, say, well, it costs us $100,000, to fix this drainage problem, and there's a 200 lot subdivision. That's $500 a lot. And and people are not going to understand that. And they go, well, who made this up? Who told me about this? Where is this in my documents? I can tell you, as an HOA president of 549 homes, you would be surprised the number of people come to me and say, I got to pay an assessment for what? This is a deed restricted community? No one told me, but I'm still the guy that collects the fee. So I don't have a problem with the premise behind this, but this document here is a dangerous piece of paper. And I would advise any other magistrate, unless you read it and totally understand the ramifications of it, I would vote against it, and that's what I plan to do.
Anyone else like to say anything here? Magistrate Likens.
Thank you. Magistrate Eldridge, could you give me an example of something that might occur and be taken care of with this document? As could be a detention basin, a ditch, a culvert. Just give me a what-if scenario, how this would roll to whom and to whom and to whom to take care of a problem.
I think Magistrate Dye is right on target with some of his remarks in that in the past, perhaps our inspections weren't up to par. We're under an all-new day, and we're under an all-new day because we're forced to be. It started out with the stormwater legislation, and it's getting tighter all the time with new and new regulations coming down. What we've had in the past was a developer would develop, and again, supposedly according to plan. The guy comes in and buys this house, and perhaps it's his realtor that doesn't inform him properly, perhaps it's the neighborhood doesn't inform him properly, but whoever says, boy, wouldn't that be a great place there to put you a concrete patio? So he comes right out on what was supposed to be a drainage ditch and erects a concrete patio. Well, now you've got a problem. We have got to have, as a county, and what I believe that this document lines out is that we're going to have a series of inspections. First by the county on the developer, second by the county on the builders, and then if you'll look in here, it says that every 3 years it'll be reviewed. There won't be a situation where somebody goes in and builds, and then 20 years later, we're trying to correct it. It'll be a situation where at least in a 3-year window, you'll know that something has gone awry and you can go ahead and fix it. So it's an all-new day for everybody in the county, including us as a inspection and planning development, and for the developers, the builders, and then the homeowners. It's no more than taking responsibility, and Bob's right, we've got to be the first ones to take responsibility, but we've got to be able to pass it down the line. We've got places where people have put porches over easements, places that people have said, oh, I don't want a ditch in my yard, and have filled it in. We have a place in my own district where they had taken a big open ditch and filled it up with a culvert and filled it over, which made a beautiful side yard. But when it became a sinkhole, he thought that it ought to be the county's problem to fix that sinkhole because nobody had ever inspected it since the time that his past owner or whoever had filled it in. You know, so it's just a situation of checks and balances as we go forward, hoping that we don't get into any more huge issues like Ash Avenue or like you have in your district in some places, that we catch that on a quicker cycle.
All right, thank you. I think where the county is not an insurance company, we're a county government. We're not the indemnity. We don't indemnify builders or contractors for things that are done. We all have heard the term buyer beware. We're not here to correct mistakes that buyers make either. I'm sorry to have to tell people that, but when you buy something, you have to do your own due diligence. And you should know what you're buying, and you should know what you're doing before you move forward and not just listen to anybody. I don't think we're out here. I agree with some of what's been said, but we have Section 7 of this contract says this: this agreement shall be binding on all subsequent landowners of land served by the stormwater facilities and may not be amended or abrogated in part or in whole without the express written consent of Oldham County Fiscal Court. So I interpret that to say that you're going to be responsible, but if a circumstance comes up that the majority of people here can listen to and feel is unfair to that particular property owner, the fiscal court has the ability to make an exception to any rule. So I don't think the landowner here is responsible for swales and things that go across their property, as Magistrate Eldridge said, not to fill them in or to build something on them or whatever. It's not our problem. You build something on your stormwater conveyance, piece of property, then I think you need to clear it up. It's not up to us to come in and correct your mistake. But I don't, if there's a problem in the street, which is not owned by the landowner, nor is it owned by the subdivision, once it's dedicated to the county, it becomes a county street. So I think we've got enough flexibility in here to listen to circumstances that may come forward that are unforeseen today. What we're trying to do is set a high standard, ask people to accept responsibility, and not cause everyone else in the county to be, your insurance company. If you, your builder or contractor, are connected to something that doesn't work, and we inspect at the beginning, people make plans that they don't follow through on. I don't believe the county has the ability to go out and consistently check every developer, every builder, to make sure that everybody's doing exactly what they told us they were going to do. We extend a degree of trust, and when problems come to our attention, we look into them, and we try to check on people. But we just can't accept for the community the role of indemnification of everybody who wants to build or make a profit or sell something in this county, in my estimation. But I do think we've got some leeway in here to be lenient or consider mistakes that are not the fault of an individual. Okay, Magistrate Dye, you may rebut that.
And yes, I will. You sort of stepped in it, Judge.
I did?
So you're telling me that the pipes underneath the right-of-way are not part of the stormwater management facility?
If they're in the right-of-way,
Be careful now.
Are they in the right-of-way?
Yes, sir.
Then they belong to the county.
So in other words...
Just like the sidewalk that you walk on is not
Belongs-
yours. You may mow the boulevard, but that's not your sidewalk, nor are those your trees that you plant in that boulevard.
By the way, we'll want to talk about sidewalk repair later, but anyway, so you're telling me if the pipe underneath the street running between my house and Mr. Logston's house, if it was put in improperly, you're going to say, well, Mr. Dye, Mr. Logston, we're going to fix your pipe, but our part's going to be this out in the street, and your part's going to be over here. Is that what you're telling me?
I'm not...
Remember, you didn't indemnify anybody here. You took
Right,
the
and I
developer
also-
on his word that he was going to do it right.
Well, I also said that we have the ability, the flexibility to look at every situation and accept the professional advice of our engineers as to what it was. I mean, you're trying to create a situation that may not exist, may never exist. But if it's in the public right-of-way, it's ours. If it's on your property or your backyard, it's yours. And if you bought it from somebody, then you have to go back on the person you bought it from. But if it's a county engineer would like to respond to this a little bit. Excuse me. I'm catching what you have there.
Thank you, Judge, in court. A stormwater conveyance system runs through private property, runs through public property, runs through easements, runs all over the place. It's all interconnected. It all goes together. If it's within a right-of-way of a county road, we do maintain it, whether it's a pipe or a ditch or an inlet. We have staff that full-time, that's all they do is maintain that. But when that leaves the roadway via a crossroad pipe and runs down somebody's property or a line between two properties, and it's not within an easement, we can't legally go in there and fix it.
I'm well aware of that.
We can't legally go in there and correct any issues.
I'm well aware of that.
We regularly get calls complaining of this. We go out there and look at it, and we say, well, we'll take good care of that, no problem. And they say, well, wait a minute, how much you going to give me for the easement to get on my property?
There's not a manager sitting up here that hadn't got those phone calls.
I know there isn't, and each one of you have been to those with me.
Mm-hmm.
This document is just part of what the Division of Water has mandated on us through the MS4 program. The ordinance that this court passed unanimously last August, post-stormwater control ordinance, had the signing of this as a requirement. It also has the recording on the deed, the final plat, of any development that comes in, all drainage ways, ditches, culverts, curbs, what have you, within an easement. Therefore, we now have the right to go out there and maintain and take care of these items. Where the problem exists with detention basins, once again, still part of that same structure, everything goes in there, those things start filling in, they start silting in. Not necessarily due to construction, just due to hard rains and the kind of soils we have. Stuff runs off, stuff goes in. As they fill up over time, and I'm not talking about a year or two, I'm talking about 15, 20, 30 years' time, they don't function as they were designed anymore. The downstream people pay the price for it. Also, the outlet control structures rust away, fill up, break off. Orifices and weirs change design, and therefore they're flowing more water. This creates erosion downstream, which in turn fills in something else. So the Division of Water's mandate that caused us to pass this ordinance is trying to tie all these things together and give the county more ability to not only maintain what's ours, because that ditch that runs between two houses that's on private property connects my systems, my road systems at either end of those properties. It's kind of hard for me to maintain a system when there's chunks of it I can't get to, or my road crew can't get to. So it allows us to do that. It also takes us to the detention basin and beyond. Detention basins are, always have been, and as far as I understand, always will be, the responsibility of the people who use it. Now, that's not in any of our ordinances. That's in Kentucky law, that's in federal law. Division of Water, EPA, they all say the same thing. We don't have an ordinance that says that. This gives us the power to tell the people, look, it's your basin. You drain to it. Your HOA, your developer, whoever is in charge of the open space within your community is in charge of that basin that sits on open space. But it also gives us the right, because for a period of about 5 or 8 years, near as I can tell, about 10 years ago, we were allowing detention basins within a subdivision to go on private lots. Guy had a real deep lot. They put the detention basin on the back of it. Technically, whoever buys that house owns that detention basin for the entire subdivision. Now, I'll bet you a dime to a dollar he doesn't know he owns that detention basin, and he sure ain't planning on taking care of it. Yeah.
Okay.
But whoever runs into that basin is responsible to take care of it. It's protecting that homeowner, that, you know, the buyer beware, as we heard earlier. So I'm not saying it's perfect. This document is the result of the ordinance that the Division of Water forced upon us, and it's also the lowest level we could do. There are a lot more stringent ones out there. This was required. When I do the MS4 report for 2017 next March, one of the new questions will be, did you pass this ordinance? We'll say, yeah. Did you create the document? Yep. How many people signed it? Well, today, none, but the next final plat that comes through will. How many didn't? Well, we already have some that didn't because we didn't have a document to sign. So we're looking at a possible non-compliance here next spring because of the delay. Now, whether you want to change it first, whether you want to research it first, whatever you want to do, know that this document is required by an ordinance that we have that was required by the Division of Water. There has to be a thing called a stormwater maintenance agreement.
I'm well aware of all that.
Okay.
And I agree with everything you said, but all the subdivisions you have now have those easements you can go into any time.
No, they don't, sir.
No, they
I
do.
run into them constantly.
No,
don't.
people think they're on an easement. But
Yeah.
let's go back a second about this detention base, whatever you want to call it. Now, this is part of the facility, so when the developer puts that in, and let's say the developer holds on to it for 3 years and finally lets it go, you know, he builds out and he gives it to the HOA or whatever. So he's used that for three of that 10-year life, correct?
I can't commit to a 10-year life for any
Well,
basin.
but let's just say, you said 10 years earlier. I'm just using 10 with your words, not mine.
All right.
All right, let's say there's a 10-year life of this retention basin. So the developer's used it for 3 years, and it's filled in part of those 3 years. So are we going to say the guy at the end of the stick gets to clean up everybody's mess, or does the developer put in some and an HOA? Are they required to develop and all the pipes and ditches and stuff, since this is a what you all consider some type of a manageable facility? It's something you can see on a map. You can actually not touch it and feel it, but you know it's there. Are you all familiar with the reserve study? In other words, if we have to fix this, it'll take X number of dollars in 10 years to fix it, and this is what it'll cost, and we divide that money up?
This document requires, and it's a very loose term, regular inspections. Now, we'll let you define, as the HOA president, who has a basin or basins that you're responsible for, to determine what that period is.
You missed my point. Who's responsible for the first 3 years of maintenance of the 10-year life?
But the document also says that every 3 years, that inspection and recertification of the basin will be sent into the county. So if the developer has it for 3 years, he has to do one. He has to have a professional engineer that specializes in stormwater management recertify that basin. And if it's silted in, that means it's going to be cleaned out. It means outlet pipes are going to be controlled and maintained and corrected, and the downstream erosion is going to be prevented and matted, and whatever the inspector out there says needs to be done.
And we're taking this at face value, correct?
Face value.
That his engineer signed off on it, and all that's exactly the way it's supposed to be done.
Yes, we are.
That's my rub, right there. I want my guy to go do it on his dime.
Who's your guy?
Whoever the HOA, if you're going to turn over to the HOA, developer says, we turn this over to you. I said, good. My engineer is going to going to check your stuff out, make sure it's right for your plan on your dime to make sure you're telling me the truth.
Well, that's between you and the HOA and the developer.
That should be in this
You don't
document.
have to accept this HOA from the developer, right?
No, you don't.
There you go.
That's why this document is so dangerous. There's too many open loose ends, and I don't buy into this. Mr. Williams came up here today, and I didn't see him getting relief from the group. So I've said all I'm going to say. This is a dangerous document, and I would buyer beware, as the
This
judge said.
document is along the same lines, if you don't mind me saying, as Mr. Williams' problem. We have the absolute bare lowest requirements required by state law for sediment and erosion control and silt fences. But we don't have anything special. We're not anything above. That's why he sees the muddy water.
And
They
we
meet every standard that we have in our current ordinance.
We haven't changed any of our standards.
we have not.
And we're passing the buck on to the person that don't know they're getting it passed on to. I'm done talking about it.
Okay. Anybody else? Yes, Magistrate.
All right, Magistrate Leslie.
2 questions. Thank you for standing up and not clarifying anything and making it as broad as possible.
You're welcome.
Okay. Let's say there's some developments that really don't have, because of their age, don't have any detention basin or whatever. So and they may not even have an HOA. So who becomes the one who's supposedly supposed to take care of this? Is it the county who comes out and inspects it? Or if the landowner or no adjacent landowners know anything?
As I read this document you have before you, I don't think its intent is for the county to come out and inspect anything. I'm certainly not setting inspection quotas for anybody or trying to determine who's the worst case scenario. As far as the county's access ability and being able to do an inspection and even a repair if needed, I think that's just to safeguard the county and the people downstream and the people within the subdivision should that become necessary. The idea of this document is to make the people who use the basin be responsible for the basin. So if you have no homeowners association, I believe the document says that whoever drains into a basin is in charge of that basin. If you're an older subdivision and you don't have a basin at all, well, then your stormwater infrastructure is rather limited.
Okay. Let's say we have, and this is something that came up in the road committee that I broached, and that's where you have stormwater from 2 adjacent property owners that goes into a lake, and the overflow goes in through a ditch system to a stream. The ditch is eroding because of the water. So, and it's in the easement. Who is the one who's supposed to repair that? Is it the county, since it's in the easement, and it's technically not the county's property, it's the landowner?
The easement grants us the ability to
Access it, yes.
Yes.
But who's responsible for repairing the ditch? The landowner or the county or
When we
both?
when we currently get a call like that, we advise the homeowner on what should be done. Now, we also look at the root cause, because if you don't determine why it's eroding, all of a sudden, if it hasn't been before, you're not really going to fix the problem. Or you fix the problem by going upstream and finding out who's discharging more water or faster water than previously was. So it's not a real easy answer. But we spend a lot of time tracing these things back to the root cause.
Well, the property's been there for at least over 30 years. And
Been eroding the whole time?
it's continuous, yes. It's just like the beginning of the head of a stream. I mean, it starts at some point, and then as the years go on, it broadens itself. It's the same thing as the Ohio River, and if you look at the geography of the land.
Well, it sounds like you may be talking about a blue line stream as identified by
Well,
a firm map.
It goes into a blue line.
Well, and if that's the case, then we can't go in and repair. That's filling within a blue line stream, and that's
It's not
federally
technically, but
protected.
it drains into a blue line.
Well, I'd have to see the exact situation. There's a lot of what ifs. But if something's been eroding for 30 years, we got a pretty darn big hole there.
Well, it's the banks are eroding, and it's going toward the road surface.
Yeah, you're gonna have to send me this. I need to see this now.
I gave the address to Wes.
Okay.
Judge?
Yes, sir.
Let's keep in mind that this is not a retroactive document. This is trying to fix problems going forward.
Okay.
Measure ties.
This kind of fits the scenario that I just addressed 3 property owners 2 weekends ago. There's a subdivision at the bottom of the hill, and then there's another subdivision that's been put in place next, and this is a pretty steep bank uphill, and now there's a third one going in. And there is a small detention basin there to help.
The top one.
On the top one. Now, right now, that's not maintaining, and it's filled up just like we're talking about, and doesn't seem to be taken care of. Hopefully, when the developer puts that in, he cleans that out, does all the work, the engineering says it's all right, and you all sign okay, and we're all right with it. And that holds it for a little bit. But let's say after 2 years, it fills up, and all of a sudden, the homeowner in the second subdivision away, but all downhill, he's going to be the affected one, because the other 2, it slides right on downhill to him. And then at that point, it jumps over the little drainage, which makes a curve, ends into his garage and over a driveway. Now, I understand if you're in the same subdivision, then the subdivision's going to be responsible for it. Now, what happens to this guy in a totally different subdivision? Where's his line of recourse, and what does he do?
You're talking about the situation that started detention and retention 25, 30 years ago. You're talking about the exact same situation. Subdivision comes in on low ground, they're fine, everybody's great. Above them, somebody builds, all of a sudden, they start getting extra water. Somebody builds above them, now they're getting a lot of water because it's just running off. That's what started the whole concept of detention and retention. You can't run more water off your property after you build than before. So that if the people downstream are surviving now and you build upstream, they're still surviving. That was the whole concept of how we got to this point. Now we're taking it a step further. You have this detention and retention, you're building above people, we don't want them flooded. To make sure that goes on, perpetuates, you have to maintain it. You have to clean it out. You have to assure that it still functions as designed.
I understand that.
Yes.
But that's where my question jumped differently, because this gentleman's in a different subdivision.
I
If it's all part of the same subdivision, he'd go to homeowner's subdivision and say, our detention is not working, what can we do to fix it? And I would assume that homeowner association would take care of him. But this is coming from a different homeowners association, hopefully that's put into place.
You could give me examples all day of things exactly like that this doesn't cover, that this wasn't intended to cover, just like if you go out and you want to build something new, you do a development, and I give you a sediment and erosion control bond, or a permit, you give me a bond to cover damages within the property. And you get a 7-inch rain in 4 hours, which nobody can handle, nothing we do could ever handle it, and we get them. And a wall of mud comes flying off your property onto the neighbor downstream. That bond that you bought for us, that we're holding to maintain the site, cannot be used to help that person downstream. It can only be used to force you or for us to fix your site. No different. That homeowner, and that's what we had here today, coming in here and you know, expressing his concerns with our ordinance, that's his problem. We have no mechanism to protect him, just like we have no mechanism to protect this gentleman because the basin upstream is hitting him. We don't.
You mean the county won't,
County does
even with
not.
the new stormwater, that we won't, as a county, go in and fix that problem?
Well, now, if with this, if they've signed this document, this is only for new developments. This isn't retroactive. This will not apply to Mr. Dye's, Magistrate Dye's subdivision. Unless they go out and build a detention basin, it won't apply. Unless they try to replat some part of open space, it won't apply. This is not retroactive. This is from this point forward. That's what the Division of Water required us to do, so that's what we did. Doesn't mean it can't be, but that's not what this document is. This document is from this point forward. So the person you're describing will not be helped by this in any way that I can see, other than perhaps preventing somebody that's even above the current above from flooding somebody.
Okay, Magistrate Lyken.
Yes, Scott, I'm sure some of my constituents are going to say, what's happening with my $38 I pay a year for my stormwater fee? Where's that going, and why aren't you using that to fix these problems?
I'm not in charge of that fee. That's the Stormwater Board.
Okay.
Yeah. I do ask them for money to do stormwater
And I know they're
drainage
spending
projects.
money on projects, and it's a good thing that we have control of that now. But this looks like that we're trying to put it on a homeowners association, but, you know, shouldn't we be doing some of that with the stormwater fee?
Our fees are not that high.
The stormwater fee is to fix, provide clean water, first of all, and
Quality, not
secondarily,
quantity,
stormwater in the public right-of-way. We're supposed to fix in the right-of-way, and then where we do have some access, you know, or have an easement. So I don't think, you know, you could let Magistrate Leslie speak here, but Magistrate Greenwell, if you like. I'm not, this isn't perfect, can't address every situation that we've come up with. We do have stormwater issues, but I personally, since I've been on the fiscal court, I'm not aware of a homeowner association stormwater issue. 10 years I've been here. So I don't think it's going to come up very often, but we need a tool. We were forced to get a tool to address certain circumstances that may never arise. But, you know, we've got it, and I think it's incumbent on us we have the ability to waive things, to look at unique circumstances and decide, you know, if we're going to take a different tact with it, or allow the Stormwater Board to, or use our stormwater funds to.
We also have the
fix
50/50
something.
program.
Yeah, we have a sharing program in effect here, and I don't think we'll ever get to the point where you can not find some circumstance that may not be addressed completely by this. But the man who was here earlier is run off from a property that is being managed properly, but is going into Crystal Lake. Okay, that's an issue, and I understand it, but we don't have a way to fix it unless we go in and dredge Crystal Lake ourselves.
You can't dredge Crystal Lake.
Or whatever.
You'd have to pump it.
I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
but-
area around the docks or whatever. Magistrate Leslie would then up.
Yes, I understand what you're saying now, that you've explained this a little bit better. In reference to the individual who came up and spoke earlier, I did run into an issue some years ago. Say landowner number one is below landowner number two. The stormwater from number two goes into landowner number one's property, and landowner number two refuses to do anything because his gravel is washing across the road and into the landowner number one's property. We is not our fault. So, and I did discuss this with our county attorney, John Fenley, and he said the recourse that landowner number one has, that I broached him about, is he has a civil case against number two. And I told owner number one that was his remedy, and he refused to do it. So I don't know where he ended up, but we can't be the police of every landowner, and there is a venue where this can be addressed outside of the county.
Manager Greenwell.
Thank you, Judge. Getting back to the gentleman that came forward about Crystal Lake, I don't want anything that we've done to come back and bite those people that are downstream from this development, even though it's not finished yet. Is that possible?
You're referring to the development he was referring to?
Yes.
It is my opinion that the problem that Crystal Lake is receiving now from that direction is not from O'Reilly's site. The last time we got pictures, we went out, a neighbor has dug a giant hole to a pipe, and we've been trying for 3 months to get this large disturbed area filled in. We can prove that water is running into Crystal Lake, and this is a member of Crystal Lake. It's not O'Reilly's.
I know
There
what
was
you're
no
talking about.
overtopping of that. There's no sediment of any kind from O'Reilly's from the last storm. We were there. It's coming from a Crystal Lake resident at this point.
And you say that we have no, in other words, our ordinances, all we can do is use those ordinances to enforce restrictions and things like that. And in this particular case of Crystal Lake, doesn't the Army Corps of Engineer have things that we can use? I mean, I know we say it's the Corps' deal, but who's the people that need to report this to the Corps?
This actually comes from the Division of Water through the MS4, and it's clean water. They're the ones that have mandated it on this. They've mandated it on us so that we take personal responsibility for our community. That we already have state laws that say the exact same thing as what they mandate on us. But it's so that we have these local laws so that the local constituents start to learn about it and we get more understanding and more education. The Division of Water already has these rules. That's why every now and then they come down and write us up for something that we didn't even know was happening, and because it's violating our rules. They know it is because their rules are the same, but they want us to do the policing, not them. They're policing the police, as it were.
So I guess I'm wondering, how did we get the mud out of Crystal Lake?
That's a whole nother topic. I could stand here and talk for hours on that.
Well, let's wait on that.
Magistrate Hounds.
So it's subsequent developments that we would approve tomorrow, whenever. The issues that we have today, we're gonna have to handle those differently than the issues we handle in the future. We're
That's
drawing a
correct.
line in the sand, right?
Yes. If you read this document in front of you with the post-stormwater runoff ordinance that was passed in August of last year, and you see how it's mandated that this is put in, you'll see how it goes together with the other things in that ordinance, and it defines when this is signed. This is signed before we, the county, return sediment and erosion control bond. You're ready for it, but we won't return it. It's also, or whichever comes first, before you come for final plat. If you come to final plat so you can sell off pieces, you sign this first. So if you have no bond and you already have a plat,
This doesn't pertain.
there's no time to come to you to sign it.
Magistrate Logston.
Judge, this, it boils down to, we have to have a plan in place. I mean, we've all been to all these conferences. We have to have a plan. This is not the perfect plan. We can change it when we need to, but we have to have a plan in place. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So we don't have no choice but to go ahead and pass this plan today. And Magistrate, I know you don't agree with me, but we're gonna get fined by the state if we don't pass something.
I don't know when they'll come back, but they will come back. And I would say definitely about the time they get next year's MS4 report.
And then how do we, if we pass this, and we know that there's changes that need to be made, or we believe there's changes that need to be made, when are we gonna start making those changes?
That's up to this court.
Is that an ongoing from your committee, Kevin? That you would have to address that ongoing?
We would be happy to look, at any comments and changing going forward, but I would agree, with Mr. Logsdon, we need to get something in place. One of the problems that we've had in this county, and the judge alluded to it, I remember very clearly, back when I was with planning and zoning, a very angry guy coming because they were putting a stub road in next to his house. And I said, well, that stub road was always there. He said, oh, I thought that was the neighborhood basketball court. We're in the same situation here. This guy's being sold this house, or an individual selling it to him or whatever, and he's saying, I really don't like that ditch there. Well, you could fill that in after you buy it. I mean, we've got to come, as I think Mr. Hound said, we've got to put a line in the sand. With this, every 3 years, you're going to get an inspection. So even if a guy buys this house next day after the inspection, in 3 years, he's going to know he's got a problem. Hopefully, he's going to know that, neighbor's going to say, hey, we're all part of the same team here. Don't tear that up, because in the end, I'm going to have to be part of that. We've got to create a sense of unity among the neighbors, among the builders and developers, to try to move forward in a more organized manner than we have in the past. In regard to the developments that are already done, anybody that's been involved with one of those, we did a major stormwater repair over in my district. We were over 4 years just getting permission from all the landowners to come in and fix their problems. They can be flooded all they want to, but when you go to them and say, we need to fix this, what are you going to pay? Or, well, I'm getting ready to sell my house. I really don't want you doing a ditch out there right now. So this gives us the ability going forward to not have to fight that battle at least. We're always looking back going to have those battles to fight. And that's one of the reasons it's going to take so long to fix some of these things, is because we've got to spend our dollars in areas where the homeowners will agree to give up the easements, give up whatever has to happen to fix the problems. But I think going forward, as Magistrate Hound said, this draws a line in the sand and gives us firmer footing moving forward.
I agree with what you said, but the question I was trying to ask is, if we draw the line in the sand with this today, then will your committee be active ongoing, that every so often as Scott sees this, we'll have to tweak it and keep tweaking and keep moving forward, rather than do just this and forget about it until 3 years later?
I think you're right on target there, and I think as soon as we sign this, if we pass this, the very next development, that comes forward and Engineer Harris is working with them, they're going to say, maybe if we change this. I mean, any document that we make up as an ordinance, there's very few of them that we don't come back at some point and have to tweak. Whether it be the fireworks ordinance or any ordinance we do, it ends up having to have some tweak somewhere down the line. ABC ordinance, any of them we do, I think we see, they come back. And I think this one will too.
Okay.
Judge?
Thank you.
Okay, Magistrate Logsdon had
Well,
his hand up first.
John, before you leave, well,
John Carter?
he's gone. I was gonna ask him a question.
All right, Magistrate Leslie.
Call for the question.
Call for the question. All right. All right, as far as, approving this stormwater management maintenance agreement, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion passes 8-1. Thank you. Next item here, now we're down to the Human Resources Committee, I believe, and that's Magistrate Logsdon.
I think it's a start.
Ms. Teeny, you want to come forward and explain these two ordinances, or not ordinances, but changes to the human resources?
Yes, the first item on the agenda is a job description for a part-time community center assistant. I put in your binders a proposal from the Parks Department on hiring a part-time employee. The revenue is up at the center, and they're no longer using inmates for the center to help set up and tear down the rooms. So we need a part-time person down there to help Kathy with those functions and the items that are listed in the job description. So this would be a part-time person, about 20 hours a week. That means no retirement or benefits.
Use them no more.
Judge, I'll make that motion.
Second.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded that this job description be approved. Is there discussion? Magistrate Greenwell?
Thank you. Tina, why would we do this instead of using the inmates?
Why would we do this instead of using the inmates? We're trying to get away from using the inmates at the parks. We haven't been using them at the community center. We are using them still in the mowing
Right.
details, but not inside and around the parks where the families and children are.
And alcohol being present too.
Yeah, and alcohol is now being served at the community center as well, yes.
Yes, we discussed this, and it was a matter of safety for all the people who go there.
Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Okay.
Thank you. The second item on the agenda that we have is a revision to the employee handbook, talking about email communications. Basically, we would like all county employees to have an email address provided by the county. It's going to make a more streamlined way of keeping all the employees informed on what's going on. Right now, not everyone has an email address. So I kind of have to hunt them down whenever we have something that's going on, and so this will make it a lot easier for us to communicate what's going on in the county.
I'll make that motion.
Judge, I'd like to make a motion that we,
You got a motion, would you like a second?
I'll second. I wasn't finished, but okay.
Okay,
That's
well-
fine. No, go ahead.
Magistrate Leslie
second.
already made the motion, so I've given you an opportunity to second. Oh, you gonna second it? The discussion? Okay, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, next item here has to do with personnel.
All right, the first item we have is for planning and development. A new hire for the electrical inspector position, Scott Thompson, at $21.54 an hour, and that would be effective tomorrow, the 13th.
Make that motion, Judge.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Magistrate Leslie?
Is this an additional inspector or replacement?
Additional.
And how many do we have now?
We have one.
Do we normally staff two?
We do not. This position was approved with the budget this year.
I see. Thank you.
It was approved because of the need for redundancy in that department, in this position. And the fact that our inspections, I don't have it here with me, but inspection people are being, run pretty, I hate to say run ragged, but just being run hard. Can't make them all. Mark is here if he'd like to speak, or Jim, about inspections.
If Jim could come forward, because he explained it to me very well, so I think he can explain it to the court.
Judge, I think this is the Department of Redundancy Department.
Huh?
There's a T-shirt like that. I used to have one, but this is not actually about redundancy. It's actually about the increase in activity in our department. The fact that we have a second electrical inspector is a good thing. Number one, you have to be certified as an electrical inspector. You can't just take anybody off the street and have them inspect electrical. And so I think we've approached this very logistically in that we get another electrical inspector who can also do building inspections. One of the key things, and Michael, Magistrate Logsdon, if this is where you want me to go, if we send out monthly our inspection reports and building documents, and they look like this typically. They're different colored every month rather, but this is the one for December, which ends 2016. And our total inspections for December for 2016 was 3,834. That is significantly up above any or most of any other year in our history. And I've got, if you want overheads, you want me to explain this in great depth, I can show you that. But realistically, we're sending our inspectors out across the county to do, we have currently 2 that are doing inspections, both building and electrical. Now, one of the key things is that we're actually going to increase our revenue in this scenario The first thing is that Mark is going to, and ever since he come on board, I've talked to him about becoming a Level 3 certified inspector, and that means that commercial and industrial plans and inspections can be done in-house. Currently, you have to go to Frankfurt and get those done. The second thing that we're going to do is, that's customer service, especially if we're going to have increased economic development activities. Rather than going to Frankfurt and spending 45 days getting your plans reviewed, we can do them in up to 3 days. The second thing is that we intend to go to the Frankfurt Department of Housing, Construction, and Building and ask them that we expand our jurisdiction and be able to take HVAC inspections. And that's what Magistrate Logston called me up here earlier about, was the HVAC inspector's cubicle. There's about $58,000 in HVAC permits and inspections that the state collects just in Oldham County, and if we take those over, we're already in the building. Our inspectors won't make a separate trip to do HVAC inspections. If we expand our jurisdiction, we'll be able to, basically capture that revenue without much effort, because we used to do that years ago when we had 3 inspectors, and then they were all certified. We did all those inspections in-house before the state took them. So I think one of the key things is, yes, there is some redundancy in that if our electrical inspector got injured or went on vacation, we can't do inspections because nobody else is certified to do those. So rather than getting a building inspector, I thought it was more important we get an electrical inspector. The electrical inspector can do building inspections under our chief building official, but our chief building official cannot do electrical inspections. So the redundancy is really critical in this situation because, again, we're seeing increased activity, period. If you look at just the number of single-family building permits issued, they're all on the rise. We have a total of 548 single-family lots that are they're going through construction plan review right now, or they're about to, and we're going to see an increase in single-family residential development, not only the commercial and industrial development. So I'm really gearing us up for the future. This is not trying to be redundant. It's not trying to be, we're trying to be cost-effective with this. We're really making a best effort to plan ahead and not get caught where we can't do all the inspections.
Okay. Mr. Greenwell.
Jim, how did we ever get by when we had 800 individual housing?
Sheila, can you put the overhead on? You know, Magistrate Greenwell, you mentioned this the last time I stood up here, and I contested that, and I'm going to show you a chart that shows you that they weren't 800 inspections. In fact, I think you're referring to this. If I can get this to show up good here.
Your log.
Well, here is the number. In 2003, there were a total of 831 permits issued. That was related to 655 single-family building permits. That wasn't 800 single-family. There were 172 of those were multifamily. Now, multifamily is a little easier to inspect because you have 8 units, say, per building. You don't have to drive from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. You're doing all those inspections right there. So at a time when there were 800 permits, 79% of those were single-family. But if you look down to the year 2000, 91% of our permits, and granted there were only 521 versus 655, but 91% were single family. That, again, takes a lot of driving. You're going wherever it is every day that the inspections are requested. So realistically, and all the way up till about, I think it was 2008, we had 3 inspectors. In 2008, and this is what I pulled out from a report from before, in 2008, we had 1,600 inspections, and at that time, we had 3 building inspectors. It was in 2009 that we went down to 2 inspectors, and I wasn't here at the time, so these numbers are based on what I saw in our inspection reports. In 2016, we had 3,800 building inspections. So we were doing in 2016 100 more inspections. Doesn't sound like a lot over the course of a year. With one less 1,000 rather. Sorry, 1,000 with 1 less inspector. So again, we're current numbers for 2016. We're back up to 3,800, That's that number, 1,000 over the highest inspection time in 2009 with only 2 inspectors.
Judge, call for the question.
All right, regarding this position, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 8-1.
Thank you, Judge.
Might add, doesn't your new software package help you route people so that you're not running all over, you're actually going in a expeditious and well-thought-out travel pattern around the county?
Well, the inspectors do that themselves. You know, the software can do that, but it's easier for them to pick. What does happen, though, judges, we have tablets, and the inspectors are out in the field, and they can see almost real time when a new inspection is posted for them the next day, and if they're nearby, they see it on their tablet, they can go do it that day rather than the next day. So we're trying to be efficient in how we're traveling around the county so that we're not using as much gas and we're conserving time.
My question, yeah, time is.
Yeah, sure.
All right, thank you. Ms. Shaw?
All right, so the next item is some positions at dispatch. We have an interim director, Jerry Nart. We would like him to be the interim director effective 9/1. And this is not to exceed 90 days with an ex pay of $26.01 per hour.
Judge, I'll make that motion.
Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next.
Second one is an interim assistant director for dispatch. That would be Jason Smizer, effective 9/17, not to exceed 90 days with an ex pay of $21.42 per hour.
Judge, I'll make that motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
And then the last two are police new hires. We have two two-year laterals coming on board. One is Officer Brent Wilson. He is coming to us from LMPD. He was also a deputy with the Oldham County Sheriff's Office for 3 years. The second one is Officer Jared Ellison, and he is coming to us from Jefferson County Sheriff's Office as well. Both of them would start tomorrow with a base rate of $20.17 per hour.
I'll make a motion, Judge.
Second.
Discussion?
More officers.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Judge, does that bring us up to our number, or one short? No, one short.
All right, I have here two board appointments. I have three board appointments, two to the Planning Commission. Take them together, reappoint Sam Finney to a term that expires 9/3 of '21. Sam is, I think, well-known to most of the fiscal court, as is Laura Bonet. We'd like to reappoint her to 9/17/21, a new four-year term for her.
Take them both at the same time, Judge? I'll make that motion.
Second.
All right, any discussion on that? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. And then reappointment to the Oldham County Stormwater Board. That'd be the reappointment of Tom Springer for term to expire on the 1st of September 2021.
I'd make that motion, Judge.
Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank you. All right, we're back to our second public comment here. If anybody's come in and would like to address the fiscal court, don't really see anybody, I believe, has anything to say here, so we'll move on to the executive session that's coming up under, we'd like to go and discuss this under pending litigation, which is KRS 61-810 subsection 3. Is there a motion to do that?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
So moved. We'll have Mr. Carter be joining us in